Hi, welcome to Matt Sully Music. Today I'm going to show you 3 levels to playing a 12-bar blues coming up. So the first level to playing the 12-bar blues is actually just going to be how to do it. So if you're already familiar with the 12-bar blues, then I suggest skipping ahead to levels 2 or 3. So let's begin. Level 1. What is a 12-bar blues? 12-bar blues is just a 12-measure chord progression that repeats over again, giving you a great platform to improvise and solo over. For this lesson, we're going to be in the key of A. So A will be our 1 chord, and for this chord, we're going to use this common blues riff. So to begin with, we're going to play this riff for 4 measures or 4 bars, and then we're going to move to our 4 chord, which in this key will be D. To move to the 4 chord, it's really easy. All you do is take that same riff that you've been playing and move it over 1 set of strings so that now your D string is open. On the 4 chord, you're going to play this for 2 measures, then you're going to return back to the 1 chord, which once again is A, and play that for 2 measures. Next, you're going to go to your 5 chord, which in this key is going to be E, and you're going to play that for 1 measure, then go to the 4 chord, D, for 1 measure, and then you're back to A again. It goes like this. From here, it's usually common to do some sort of turnaround, which is just a riff or lick that you do at the end of the chord progression to tell everyone that you're at the end and you're going to return to the top. Here's a good turnaround to get you going. Alright, let's put it all together. So here's level 1 12-bar blues. Alright, for level 2, we're going to add a few more chords and do some voice leading ideas to just make the 12-bar progression a little more interesting. So the first thing we're going to add is what's called a quick 4. The quick 4 is where you go to your 4 chord, which again is D, in the 2nd bar of the progression, then move back to the 1 chord in the 3rd bar. Just adds a little bit more chord movement in that first set of 4, since staying on the 1 chord for 4 bars can sometimes be kind of long. And it's going to go like this. Now another common thing to do when moving to the 4 chord for the 5th measure is to actually do a little voice leading lick like so. This is just moving up through the scale, adding a little chromatic passing note between the 2 and the 3. The one thing that's tricky about this riff is getting the timing. You want to make sure you start the riff on measure 4 of the progression, and you want to make sure that you start on an A. This will lead nicely to your 4 chord where you can continue playing the 12-bar blues progression. So level 1 12-bar blues, we ended with a 5 to 4 progression. For this progression, I want to change that up a bit by adding a 2-5 progression instead. This is a common thing to do, especially in jazz, since jazz music tends to use more 2-5s rather than 5-4s. This is a great way to just change things up at the end of the 12-bar blues. So the 2 chord for the key of A is actually going to be B, and the 5 chord is once again going to be E. So the 2-5 progression can go like this. This will bring you back to your 1 chord where you're going to once again want to do a turnaround. This time I thought I'd change it up a little bit and do the turnaround as 6s. So here's level 2 12-bar blues. Alright, now we get to level 3. In this level, we're going to use some chord substitutes and passing chords to fill in the gaps between the basic chord changes. So since blues is built off of a dominant 7 sound, I'm going to ditch the blues riff for an A7 chord instead to give us more of a sense of the harmony. So I'm going to play my A7 chord like this. Now to give this chord some movement, I'm just going to move between an A7 chord and an A7 sus4, like so. Now this voicing right here, as well as a lot of the other voicing I'm going to use, are jazz voicings. So if you're not familiar with some jazz voicings, I suggest maybe looking into those to add to your chord vocabulary. A great guitar player to get you into this would be Joe Pass, who's a fantastic jazz guitar player and has several recordings of him playing solo guitar. One set of recordings that I recommend from him is the Virtuoso recordings that he has. Now for our 4 chord, we're going to go to a D9 chord like this. Now another thing you can do to add some movement when you're playing these chords is to do these half step down and up again kind of patterns. So where you move down a half step and then back up. This is just a great way to give these chords some movement again. So I'm going to go A7, D9, and then back to A7. From here, I'm going to do another chord substitute. So I'm going to play a C sharp minor 7 flat 5, which is actually going to act as an A9 chord for this section of the song. Then I'm going to do a higher voicing of an A9 right here. And then I'm going to resolve to my 4 chord by starting a half step above it. So it goes like this. I'm almost kind of thinking like a big band, like a 1940s horn section. From the 4 chord, I'm going to go to D sharp diminished chord. This is going to act as a chord substitute that's going to lead me back to my 1 chord. Cool thing about diminished chords is you can move them up and down in minor thirds to create movement, like so. From here, this is going to bring me back to my 1 chord, and since I'm up in the higher register, I'm going to go to an A9 up on the 12th fret right here. Now since I'm doing kind of a jazz blues, I'm going to want to do the 2-5 progression at the end, but I want some way to lead to that 2 chord. So making the 6 chord a dominant 7 chord is a great way to lead me to my 2 chord. So from my 1, I'm going to move down chromatically to my 6. Now right here, the 6 chord is actually going to act as a 5 of 2, so bringing me to my 2 chord, which I'm going to make a minor 7. So in this case, I'm playing B minor 7. Now right here, again, I want to do some voice leading, so I'm going to lead up to my 5 chord from the 2 by using some chord substitutes here. Now Now I decided to delay the 5 just a little bit more by doing an E7 sus chord and then resolving to an E7 chord. And then from here, I'm going to come back to my 1 chord and I'm going to do another turnaround that I got from Joe Pass. This is a counterpoint turnaround where the bass line moves up and the melody note, the top note, moves down. It goes like this. And that brings me to the top of the chord progression again. So that's level 3 for playing a 12-bar blues, and here it is as a whole. So those are the 3 levels that I came up with for playing a 12-bar blues. You could of course take this even further by adding more chord substitutes and passing chords, or you could do something in between that's not quite so complex. The great thing about playing blues is no matter what level of musician you're at, you can always find something fun to explore. That's going to be all for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.